How many of you do Facebook Live? Isn't this always the funniest part when you watch somebody's rebroadcast, how they sit there looking like, am I on the camera? But by the way, if you're going to do a Facebook Live, especially if you're doing it, not just showing an event, but you're going to be talking, I always recommend, get on early and let Facebook, hey, what's up, Amos? My brother, family. Always get on early and let Facebook do what they call building an audience. And, it's like, for instance, I've seen people, hey, Brenda. I've seen people use Facebook Live where they're at a party or some kind of a graduation or celebration, and so it doesn't matter if you don't get on early. But if you're going to be doing some kind of a post, the way you're going to be, like we're doing, talking to people, get on early and let Facebook build the audience. So this session is actually not going to start for another 2 minutes and something, because it's now 11:57 Eastern, and I'll start at 12. But meanwhile, it's building the audience. And I can do my shout-outs now. Amos, who I grew up with, right in the next building. I'm in 3170. He's in 3150. What's up, Brenda Alsiger? Brenda, who was my conference mentor, conference chair mentor for a group we belong, an organization we're both members of called AATH, Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Shout-out to Meskin, just joined in. One of my Purdue University Haraka writers, excellent poet, and a blessing to me in many ways. Linda, who Jennings, also in Chicago, did a great job. We used to work together when I used to come to the Chicago Department on Aging and have a good time with my seasoned citizens. But that's also my Virgo sister. I saw Geraldine get on there, grew up together in the I apartment, in the projects, and the joy of being in the projects, y'all. We got a lot of blessings about being in the project. I was in 5I, she was in 16I, and now she's out in, where are you now, Geraldine? Utah, something like that? Something way out west. But, yeah, and thank you, Brenda. I had a good time. And see, that's the key. A lot of times when people are hosting or cheering, like when you're giving a party and you're so nervous about how the party's going to turn out, the most important thing to do is when it's your party is for you to have a good time. If you have a good time, your party was a success. Hey, Vicky, yeah, grew up on the same block together, in a lot of classes together in elementary school. Oregon, that's where you are, Geraldine. Thank you. I knew it was right out there in the west. So we got less than a minute to go before we start the official broadcast. But again, whenever you're the host or it's your party, make sure you have a good time. When you really think about it, everything that you've done to create the party and the atmosphere is in accordance with what you like and how you're going to have a good time. Yeah, we say we want the guests to have a good time, but we don't make it so that the guests have a good time and we don't. See, there's a combination of the guests having to have a good time as we're having a good time. So make sure that when you're in charge of the party, that you're giving yourself a good party and making sure that you're having a good time. So today my topic is called what is it called? Oh, it's called lessons plus pain. Is that what I put? Lessons plus pain equal partnership? Yeah, lessons plus pain equal partnership. Here's why I did that. Hey, Tony, God, going way back now with the Washington, D.C. days. That's my last shout out, y'all, because I want to get through this, and then I'll do some shout outs at the end if I get a chance, with the exception of one, because I'll tell you in advance. I got one, right now we can just quickly say an inhale breath of prayer for those in Manchester, because I do have some friends over in the UK, and I told my buddy that if he joins in, I'll give him a shout out, because he's the one that chaperones, it's called the Leaders of Tomorrow, it's teenagers, and he's the one that chaperones them every year to the National Black MBA Association Conference. And so we've got over 150 young people that I know that have been through that program, and he's always been responsible enough for them. So I told him I'd definitely give him a shout out and prayers for them. Hey, Ella. And tell Paul I said hello, that's my boy. So if you didn't get a chance to read the poem that I have posted on in regard to this session, I'm going to read it to you, but actually I'm not just reading it to you whether or not you read it. I'm reading it to you because I want to show you how I use it. One of the things that I've been doing, most of you know that I write poetry, and I've been writing poetry since I was 14 years old. So that's over I don't do math well, so I'm 61, so do the math. Oh, well, 14 and 16. Anyway, so I've been writing poetry that long. And the thing is, when I first decided to publish my poetry, what I found is that a lot of times, especially when you're in English class and you're doing poetic interpretation, you've got one person is saying, well, I think the poet meant this, and another person is saying, I think the poet meant that. My belief is, why don't we allow somebody to get it right? See, one of the things that I base my life on is trying to catch people doing something right. We always focus on what somebody's doing wrong. Not enough do we focus on what someone's doing right. So how does that apply to my poetry? Well, what I did is when I started writing my books, I would write, I call it a storyline in poetry rather than just using my poetry. I call it a storyline in poetry because what I do is I write about why I wrote the poem. Sometimes I write that in front of the poem and sometimes I write it in back of the poem. But what it does is it allows a conversation to be had. And if we've got two opposing or different thought, interpretations of what the poem was about, it gives one of the people a chance to be right about what the poet was thinking, because that's what the author was thinking, because that's what they're saying. Oh, I think the author was saying this. I think they were saying that. Number one, it gives one of the people a chance to actually have been right and they got it, which does what? That encourages them to feel, to have a creative mindset and to feel free about taking a chance and a choice and voicing their opinion as to the way they think something was going or interpret it, because that's what life is about, is us interpreting our different experiences. And the person who didn't get it the first time, well, that doesn't make them wrong. That now gives them a lesson. Because now what they'll do is they've also shared another point of view that probably made a lot of sense as well. So now we've got two ways of looking at the same piece of literature. And actually we've got what? Three ways. Because we've got theirs, yours, the first person, the second person, and mine. All right? So, so that's what I do with my poetry. So here's the intro to the poem that I posted regarding this week's session. The poem is called Baggage Claim. But here's how I introduced that poem. The poem was preceded by a poem about relationships. And it says, what about that new relationship? What makes it so hard to go first? It's the experiences in our past relationships. Experiences that we choose to call pain rather than lessons. That's what my post said. Pain plus lessons equal partnership. Experiences that we choose to call pain rather than lessons. I don't deny that lessons can be painful, but each person is brought into our lives to help us take a step. Not always a step forward, because sometimes we need to reevaluate the road we're on, and as I mentioned in the previous poem, these lessons have also been called baggage. And I say that's fine. However, I like to affectionately call them as such and realize that as we unselfishly allow one another to work through our baggage, we work toward a better relationship that has a base of empathy. Thus the poem Baggage Claim. Be sure to reread this poem, which is also why I posted it. Reread this poem replacing the word baggage with the word lessons. But so I'm going to read it to you with using the word lessons in place of the word baggage. So though it's called Baggage Claim, let's call it Lesson Claim. Actually, if you aren't carrying any lessons from your past, we may have much in common as we thought. For as surely as you have parents who had parents, who were born unto parents, who were sons and daughters of someone born into an imperfect world after being conceived by a woman who knew a man who had an opinion, your lessons can be picked up at carousel number 1. So again, a lot of times, we call it baggage. But there's a lot of lessons that we have when we move on into a new relationship. And what I've done is I've decided, instead of focusing on the word relationships, which tends to have a connotation about, toward marriage, or, male, female, 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 male, male, whatever, toward a love relationship. I prefer to use, I want to make our title deal with the word partnerships. Because the truth is, if you're in a romantic relationship that is not a partnership, then you're actually not in a romantic relationship. So it is about the partnerships that we include in our lives and we attract into our lives. And that's why I also say it's important that we look at this whole topic of lessons as being a part of life. And life, L-I-F-E, lessons intended for everyone. Lessons intended for everyone. Everything that's going to happen in your life is going to be a lesson, good or bad, but it's going to help you make a decision towards your next step. And so that's one of my acronyms. That's my main acronym for life. But I also have life standing for letting it flow easily. Letting it flow easily. See, life and partnership should have an easy flow. Not to say it's not going to be bumpy, that there's not going to be some bumpy spots, but an easy flow does include the bumps along the way. Because the key is if we have the right partners with us, if we have the right partnership, we're going to take the bumps together. And that's what's going to make it easy, because isn't it easy to go through something when you know who you're going through it with and you have the right people on your side? That's how we get through so many things. So look back at your lives. I always remind people, look back at your life and see who you've been traveling with and see how many people have helped you get through situations. We don't get through on our own. So that's why we also need to bring in another broad topic of friendship. So we, relationship, partnership, friendships, they're all, to me, they're commingled. And they make the difference in how we're going to look at our baggage, which we're going to call lessons. So here's how we look at our lessons. And then it also brings up, my guy from UK just sent me a message saying he can't join in. But again, shout out to Val and Miller and my UK people. And shout in to, I see some new people, Jackie, homegirl, Kenneth, my Spurs fan. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Romeo, I'm glad you're here. Echo St. Julie. Oh, okay. Hey, good to see you. Long time. All right. So anyway, let's get back onto the case here. Okay. When we look at relationships, when we look at friendships, when we look at partnerships, the final tag I want to put on the message is that we're looking at messengers. We're looking at the messengers that we bring into our lives. See, life, it's about going, choosing the messengers that we got to follow. Everybody comes into your life. One of my favorite books was The Celestine Prophecy. And the Celestine Prophecy says that everybody comes into your life has a message for you. They come in there for a reason. And in the case, in the thirst for us looking for positive messages, sometimes we're looking for the positive message from somebody whose message for us is strictly, hi, you don't need to deal with me, keep moving. Okay, so it's important that we recognize why the messengers are stopping into our lives. And that's what helps us decide who we should keep and who we should let go by. Choose your messengers carefully, because your messengers become your partners. And so it's important that we look at the empathy in how we choose our messengers, our partners, our relationships, our friends. Look at the empathy. And I don't have an acronym for this one, for empathy, but one of the key elements in spelling out our compassion for one another is that we have to have empathy, because that leads to cohesive partnership. And by empathy, I'm talking about the fact that, I will never say to somebody, well, you know what, I know what you're going through. I've been in your shoes. No, I don't know what you're going through. I have not been in your shoes, but let me tell you this, I've been in your row. I have not been in your shoes, don't know what you're going through, but I've been in your row. We were all sitting in one another's row. We all have some type of challenge that was a big challenge for us that may seem like a small blip for somebody else. And so, we don't need to minimize or look to make our challenge stronger than someone or more meaningful than someone else's. It's just as simple as how when, little kids, when they hurt their finger, the level at which they cry and experience that pain it will not be the same level that we experience the same as an adult. And in fact, that's where we end up saying to kids, oh, that's going to be all right, because we've been through that pain already. We don't know what they're going through, but we've sat through that pain, and we can say to them, that's going to be fine. Take that same analogy and recognize that the little kid who's crying about a splinter in their finger, we may think that's not a big deal as a grown-up to having our finger cut off, but guess what? The kid don't know about the finger being cut off. That splinter is a big deal. So recognize that, that we shouldn't want to minimize someone else's challenge based on how we can handle it. And parents, I love you to death. I will always support you, because I think parenting is a tough calling. And, there's no rule book on how to be a parent. But, we got to think about the words that we use. When you say to a kid, you're big enough to be able to take that kind of a pain and take that type of a hit. Everybody matures at a different level. And I'm not saying that you have to erase that from your vocabulary. Just make sure that you balance. And instead of always telling them what they're old enough for, when it's negating, because that's what we're doing, we're negating their feelings. Make sure that you're also telling them how old they are and what they're old enough for when you're complimenting their feelings. When you're saying to them, it's good that you feel that, because you're at the point in your age now where you should understand, and I'm glad to see you understanding. Again, see, you notice that switch there added? Don't always make it a you should. Don't always make it a command. How about letting them know, I'm glad, I'm proud of you. There's a lot of different ways we can say to a child, I'm proud of you. Likewise, we don't need to just be about kids. That's the same thing we can do with our staff members, with our employees. I just did what I know was a great thing, because I had such great customer service when I went to a local Walmart. And the young lady there, she just says, every time I've gone, I've just loved her attitude. And to the point where I didn't mind waiting to be the next customer, and it would take as long as she needed on the previous customer. And I told her how much I really appreciated her consistency. She doesn't remember me, because I'm just one of many customers that come in and out. And that's the same thing that you do, by the way, P.S. So how about complimenting the people in our fast food restaurants, the people in the grocery stores, in the mega stores, the Walmarts, the Targets, wherever you go, the grocery, give them a compliment, because you see them working hard, and they sometimes think it's unappreciated, and sometimes they're just on automatic pilot because they think, I need to be doing this, and they don't know they're achieving it. When I told her that I remember her for her wonderful service, you should have seen the smile on her face. That young girl was so happy. And guess what that did? That made me so happy. There was the partnership. See? So again, there was a lesson that I had learned from my previous relationship, which means my life. See, I've got a relationship with my life. So you can also look at that. Recognize, the lessons that you've learned in your life. You've learned to say thank you because maybe someone never said thank you to you. You've learned to say thank you because someone said thank you to you. Okay? Share those lessons and make it work. All right? Now, when I first put this week's session together, I had entitled it as the how and why of less pain plus lessons equal partnership, the how and why. Then I thought about it. I said, wait a minute. I think it's more important that we put those in the opposite, so that I can give you some tools to use to deal with the how and why that we use in I'm mumbling because I'm excited. Okay, breathe. Okay, the how and why of pain plus lessons equal partnership. I think the best way to deal with it is to look at it in terms of the why and how. So let's first look at the why of how pain plus lessons equal partnerships. The why is that we have to recognize. I'm sorry, and P.S. This is how the pain plus lessons equal partnership, and how we choose our messengers and our partners carefully, recognizing that sometimes what we have to do is move on. So important when you're choosing your messengers and your partners that you recognize, this partnership is not healthy for me and I need to move on. So I'm going to tell you why you need to move on, and I'm going to tell you how you can move on. The why is because we move on because friends, partners, and relationships have to grow in accordance with our individual and collective needs. See, we both have to know why we're in this partnership and relationship, and we both have to want it to grow to a certain level. And that's not saying that our growth has to be congruent, and every time we're growing at the same pace. Maybe sometimes somebody's taking 2 steps and the next person's taking 1. But if the expectation that you have of one another, and you understand, well, you know what, based on your expertise, you should have jumped 2 spots, and now that'll help me jump 1. Well, based on the next step we take, my expertise is going to make me jump 2 and then help you jump 1. And now we're still moving in accordance to what we need to keep our partnership effective and impactful. We outgrow some, and some friends outgrow us. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Each person's path has different experiences that reshape their next step. And sometimes that step does not include who they've been walking with before. Sometimes it just means we take a break from one another. So that's what I'm saying, is you got to recognize that as you walk your path, because each one of us has an individual path, as you walk your path, the scenery changes. For instance, I'm in an experience right now. I'm living in Charlotte, so I don't know what's going on with my friends in New York and my friends in Chicago, my friends in the UK, and my friends anywhere. Wherever you are, you're experiencing something today that's going to impact your next step. And so when that comes into play in your decision for the next step you make, guess what that's going to do? That's going to now make you either erase somebody that's already a part of the step that you thought you were going to take, or include somebody else. For instance, I see my sister just got on and, hey, Zach, I love you to death, and I'll use you as an example because something that we just experienced. She's having our block reunion on June 24th. Now, I was going to the block reunion. I was going to New York to go to the reunion, to the party. Then I got a speaking engagement to talk to my Army family in South Carolina. Well, that changed what I was going to do on June 24th. Now I'm no longer going to New York. I'm going to South Carolina instead. See, and I use that example because a lot of times people think that we only have to use something negative to switch channels. We don't. The experiences in our life are not necessarily negative. The majority of our experiences are positive, and then we act upon them based on our needs. I need to go to my speaking engagement so that I can continue to live the lifestyle. I have to make money. But, that's also where, and then we add the compassion to that. Because if I'm speaking to my military family or to any audience only to make money, guess what? I won't be speaking with them for very long. Because the people can see when you're just trying to make money off of them and you scamming them, and you don't have the compassion and desire to share that empathy and recognize that you've been sitting in the same row with them. So that's what, because the speaking business is based on repeat business and referrals. And what they will refer to you as is someone who has no feeling and no compassion for what they're dealing with, or even for what they want to consider. So you can't offer me an option if you don't have the feeling of what options are all about. And just that simple thing of, as I'm taking my walk, because this is a path that God chose for me to be in the speaking and entrepreneurial world. My sister didn't choose that. My family didn't choose that for me. I chose it. And by my choosing to be in this entrepreneurial world, that impacts the decisions that I make. Even when I decide to be an entrepreneur, one of the things that I get to do that you may not get to do is, since I was single and no family, any decisions I made didn't take money out of my kid's mouth, didn't take money out of my wife's mouth. See, so I could make risks. I could take some chances on myself that you may not be able to take based on your marital status or your relationship status. So again, that doesn't really take us off the topic. That just is another reminder of another important piece is, don't compare yourself to someone else. Focus on what you need. And that's what I'm talking about, that partnership needs us to be moving in accordance with our individual and collective needs. So, once you know your individual needs, now you see how that works out with your partner. So that's the why, and how sometimes we have to move on, take our baggage, take our lessons somewhere else. Well, that might be a hard thing for you to do, so let me tell you how to do it, okay? Move on. I'm going to read this whole thing, then give you some examples. Move on by taking a self-inventory of what you're good at and what you like about yourself. Now, that can sound like that's kind of really simple. Move on by taking a self-inventory of what you're good at and what you like about yourself. You see, knowing what we're good at and what we like about ourselves is important, because as we understand those qualities as gifts, the things we like about ourselves and that we're good at, those are qualities that are gifts that help us see what we have to share, and thus help us find other gifts to share. Knowing what you like about yourself and what you're good at is a quality, but it's a gift. And once you know what you like about yourself and you understand what you have to share, you find other qualities, because every quality connects to another one. So, and once you find your qualities that you have to share, guess what you get to do? You get to share them with other people. And once you get other people, you get new messengers. And once you get new messengers, you get new partnerships. And new partnerships equal different relationships. And different relationships equal different friends. And different friends make for new experiences. Okay? See, it's all going to keep coming back together. I have a CD of my ugly speech, how to be ugly. And if you're not familiar with that, ugly, U-G-L-Y, that was my base acronym, unique, gifted, lovable you. And but that CD comes with a booklet that helps you focus on staying positive. Of course, when you recognize that UGLY is the base of my reputation for displaying the power of words through changing negatives into positives. And one of the exercises in that booklet is listing what you think your gifts are and how you can share them. What you think your gifts are and how you can share them. You don't need the book to do that, but I'm telling you that it's in the book if you want to have something that you can look at and a place to lift it. But just, do it every day. List one thing that you're good at and one thing, how you can share it. And actually, I went ahead of myself. One thing you're good at and one thing you like about yourself, and then also one thing you're good at and how you can share it. Because as you do that, you start to become more of an expert on yourself. And as we become experts about ourselves, that's how we move forward in all the relationships. And again, we can claim the lessons, because we do want to claim the lessons. So what my closing point is a long one, but it's wonderful. I talked to my friend Renee Green yesterday, and she just moved. And so she called me because she laughed, because she just moved to a new house, and she had sent a post out about how tough it was, the unpacking process being such a challenge and tedious, and she wasn't looking forward to it. But she wasn't bitching and moaning about it. She was just talking about it, because she's got one of them lively spirits. But she's happy to be in a new place. We said, okay, but now here I go. I got to do all the unpacking. So I introduced her to a term that I call ceremonial unpacking. Ceremonial unpacking. When you've relocated or moved into a new space, it's easy to define that as taking your time and reminiscing with each item you unpack to say. As you do that, you'll also be considering where it used to be displayed in the old place, and how you want to display it now. Which room, which wall, which cabinet, which shelf, which spiritual need do you have for that piece now, so that when you unpack it, where you'll put it. The things on my walls now were on different spots when I was in my last place. Because as they come in, where you get to put them is dependent on what has been experienced in your life already. So now as you unpack them, you can reorder, put your life in a different order. And that's what life is about, y'all. Constantly recognizing the beauty and the gift to rearrange your life and the people in it. So the relationships and partners in our lives are the same. As we move into the next phases of our spiritual walk, which I call life is a spiritual walk, we have to do some rearranging and some reprioritizing. As we do that, when we instruct ourselves to do so in a positive mindset, we keep ourselves open for more blessings as the kinds of people we want to attract into our lives and help us grow. Sometimes that growth will be in reacquainting ourselves with someone who we've outgrown or someone who had outgrown us. So again, if we go back to that why about moving forward and the people that we had to outgrow to move forward, we may bring those people back in as we reacquaint ourselves with our personal needs. Because sometimes we just need to be apart from somebody. You ever say, look, I just need my space today? Because there's no particular time that you need. It's up to you. Maybe you just need an hour away from someone. Maybe you need a day, a week, so that you can just do what? Get yourself together and get yourself reframed for being the best person that person has in their lives. It's always about finding a positive way to keep that thing together. So recognize that we are each an important piece of the puzzle. We're either a small, medium, or large piece of the puzzle. And life is about going from one puzzle to the next. Whichever size piece of the puzzle you see yourself as, without you, that puzzle is called incomplete. So make sure that you claim your piece of the puzzle, small, medium, or large, and enjoy bringing the lessons that you bring into one another's lives, your partnerships, your friendships, your relationships, the messengers. Enjoy bringing that lesson in because it's not baggage. And if you want to call it baggage, make it good bags. Because we pack a good bag sometimes. Don't we select our luggage very carefully to go with our style and our favorite color? Okay, and then we pack it carefully according to how we're going to use the stuff in it. Start being creative and look for the ways that you can use analogies to turn your negatives into positives, because the challenge is staying positive. And so the more things you turn negative into positive, you get better at staying positive. I'll have this posted on YouTube, hopefully within the hour, but please take the time to check it out. Enjoy the message. Look at my site, sportyking.com. Support me there. I would appreciate it. Also, on Sunday at noon and Tuesday at 10 a.m., I do an inspirational message on xldjsradio.com. You can download the app on your phones or on your PCs and Macs. So just, and that's how I love to support my sister, her dream and her vision. Thank you all for coming on board. I see a good friend of mine, Pam Claiborne, on there, and Pam I know is involved. Pam, I hope you've seen what Eric Booker is doing with the backpack program that he's doing, and that's my connection to the Dr. Martin Luther King Boys and Girls Club. Kenneth, the reason I want to tell you that I was going to give you a shout out, because the other thing is that when I talk about moving on, you see I got on my San Francisco jersey, San Francisco Giants. That's baseball. My San Antonio Spurs basketball season is over. So I move on to my next team. I move on to my next sport. I am, the funny thing is I don't consider myself a sports fan. I'm a my team fan. And my team season is over, so it's now time for me to go on and support my other team. I have no regrets, and I'm not down and out about it. We're out of the playoffs. I'm not worried about whoever's going to win. If they're going to win the championship, that's fine. I hear about that on the news. I'm not going to take time out of my day to focus on somebody that I'm not interested in the outcome. The outcome I wanted was for my team to win. And since my team is not going to win the championship, I'm going to accept where my team has gone and now put my support and my energy toward making the next thing that I want to happen. And that is, I want my baseball team to win the championship. Again, it's not a negative thing, but it's about you making sure that you use your energy properly. Choose your baggage and your lessons carefully. Pain plus lessons does equal partnership. But when we look at our track record, not our lack record, we recognize that we've already worked through a lot of the pain and gotten a lot of the lessons. Thank you. God bless you. And y'all have a good day. I'm going to do some quick shout outs that I see. I see Amos on there. Yep. Rearranging. Zet. You know it. Hey, Pamela, gave you a shout out too. I love you. You know it. Who else we got on there still? Hey, Janice, long time, New Chicago in the house. And I see another, quite a few people that I know that I gave all y'all some shout outs already. So that's what life is all about. Thank you all for being my partners. Make sure you read the poem and make sure you support yourself. God bless you. See you next week on Glue. Glue. God's love undoes everything.